Welcome to Personal Best right here at 1220 WKRS. We have a really interesting guy coming on today. We have got Brian Peterson coming on. Okay, I don't even know how to describe him. He's an artist, an art curator, photographer, but a wonderful, wonderful writer. And he's actually going to be talking about his book, The Blossoming of the World, which actually features basically some writing and photos, kind of a combination, life-provoking things. And what I really find interesting is a big discussion that we're going to have today is contradictions. That's what he really deals with in this book. And let's face it, did you ever hear the saying, life is a contradiction? That's what we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to be talking about it through Brian's work. So welcome to the show, Brian. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure and honor.
Well, thank you. You know, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your background. You got a very extensive background, which is just amazing. I'm sure you're going to be modest. But tell us about your background and then what led you to write the book.
Well, I had a somewhat typical middle-class upbringing. My father was a scientist, actually a geologist, petroleum geologist, and so I sort of grew up with the big expanses of time that a geologist lives with. I grew up in the West, Montana and New Mexico, and for example, driving down the highway with my dad was a lesson in science and the passage of time, but also a lesson in how to not to drive because he'd be looking at the rocks and just explaining how that outcrop over there was 800 million years old, and meanwhile the car would be wandering off the road, and Mom would say, "Dad," but I had I guess in that sense a kind of tip. My mother was a school teacher, and a typical kind of middle class upbringing. I got involved in the arts as a high school student. Kind of fell in love with music initially, and later on in my life, went to grad school in photography and turned to my professional life has gone more in the visual art direction, and got involved in writing along the way, partly as a professional activity involving with the curatorial work I do, but also just I found there were things that I needed to say, I wanted to talk about that photography, as interesting as it is, didn't allow me the possibility for. So photography, visual arts, and writing, I guess, would be my main professional outlets, I guess you could say. But
it's such a shame that you're so uncreative. I mean, it's really a shame that you just have no creativity. I mean, it's very sad.
Well, I work at it. I'm struggling to get it, but no, it's something. It's been my passion since I was a kid, since I was a high school student, really. And I don't know why that is. It's just how I'm wired. Thankfully, I figured it out at an early enough age, so I could begin to learn how to do it. But everybody's got to find the thing that most suits us, and that's half the battle in life. Is just getting comfortable with who you are and then living it out. So I feel fortunate that I managed to do that and have some good productive years involved in it. So.
Now, did you find that it's interesting that you bounce within the arts? I find I really I have a lot of artist friends, and that's kind of my passion. Is I really find that most of them really do have different creative outlets. I mean, art is definitely, whether they're a painter or a photographer, that's one outlet, but it's not. Sometimes it's not enough. You have to kind of be able to have a different voice at times. And did you really find that through your writing?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it's funny. I can't really explain in any kind of totally logical, concrete terms why I've gotten involved in writing the way I have. I had moments early on in my life where I just sort of realized, well, gosh, there's stuff I like to think about, and just kind of crazy thoughts that come to my mind, and experiences. I mean, also I find that, I don't know if you find this, but there are certain moments in life that I've had, that one has, that sort of stick with you. They like a kind of a burr under the saddle or something, and they almost demand your attention, and your attentiveness, your vision, in a sense, your attempt to understand them. And that's a lot of what writing is for me. I find is trying to turn my attention to things that have moved me or affected me in one way or another, and I want to understand them better. And writing is an interesting way of doing that for me.
Now, in your book,
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that you talk about contradictions, because a lot of times people say, oh, life is a contradiction. Have you ever
Yeah.
met someone, in my opinion, there's some people that are a walking contradiction. You're almost
Yes.
confused by them. You're like, okay, they see a lot of different sides to them. And, we joke in my family, but I always say people are very complicated.
Yes.
I think everybody always wants to sum things up as black and white, and it's not that way.
Yeah.
And that's why people say as you get older, things become gray, because you realize that things aren't black and white. And what I find interesting is the premise of your book is really, when you talk about contradictions, tell me what you really wanted to address in this book, if you had to say the theme of this book is.
Well, first of all, let me just comment on what something you just said about things becoming gray. I feel that's partly true. That yes, as you get older, you begin to see the complexities of life, the nuances of life, and you understand that there is a sort of subjectivity to things, and you need to be able to see those gray areas. Otherwise, you can get judgmental and have trouble in that direction. But what I find is actually, the older I get, the contradictions become more and more defined. That's another side of the coin. What I mean by that is, I myself, many people have experienced the beauty of life, the love in life, the relationships, the friendships, the joy, just the simple things, of waking up in the morning and scratching my dog on his behind his ears, and seeing the sun come up through the trees behind our house, and just those simple, beautiful joys that life presents us with, that are precious and wonderful, and the sense of love in life, the sense there's something out there that cares about us. Even I'll also go that far as to say that. At the same time, if you're really going to look at life honestly, I mean, it's pretty nasty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was listening to the news in the before run up to the show, and there's some, even just in today's news, there's people do things to each other that are not so good, and there things happen in the world that are tragic and terrible, and when the tsunami hits, it doesn't distinguish between children, and I don't mean to sound all of a sudden.
No. I think this is very interesting.
But it's if you want to be honest about the whole, what life is for each of us. I mean, if you're unlucky enough to be in the way of in the wrong place at the wrong time, there's no guarantee that all the love in the universe is not going to save you necessarily from something bad happening, because it happens all the time. And I think every thinking person has to somehow, if not deal with this, these contradictions, you have to somehow align your life so that you're not in denial of them. Because if you try and pretend that they don't exist, I find what happens is, I speak from experience with this, that there's a kind of shutting down, a kind of loss of intensity of living, and ultimately that's what, if you ask, the purpose of the book, or what I'm trying to kind of get at in the book, it's the danger of living life in a way that's sort of shut down, where we close, because it can be so scary.
Right.
Right? I mean, life is a scary thing. I mean.
But, I say that often, where I say, I see a lot of people And this, again, it's going to sound judgmental, and I don't mean it to sound as, but they live a very sedated life.
Yes.
They kind of just do their thing, they show up, blah, blah. And there's no way I just don't believe that that's if they could choose. When I say if they could choose, I don't think they feel like they have choices. They
Right.
kind of like, I've got, bills to pay. I've got to, get up. I got responsibilities. And I'm not saying that people don't have responsibilities, but there's also a responsibility not to live a sedated life, because if you don't take action on that, you're just going to sleep your way through life.
Yeah, that gets a lot of what I'm trying to kind of or struggling to articulate with this. And you mentioned choices. I mean, isn't the fact that we have choices and genuine choices in life one of the things that's kind of scary? I mean, we wake up in the morning and we decide how we're going to spend that day, or and any decision that we make. I mean, this again, I don't want to sound real grim, but sometimes I think about this. Once or twice in my life, I've gotten into a fender bender, and then I nothing serious, fortunately, but then I sort of trace back the chain of decisions that went into that event happening, and who knows, but whether a decision that I made led to that happening, or led to something worse not happening. There's a lot of just uncertainty in our daily lives, and we don't always know what the choices we make are going to lead to. And so we have to. That's another one of those difficulties that we face. And I think you're also your point about sedated. I think that's really important. There's so many things that we're surrounded by that we can use to sedate us. And we all do it. I mean, in saying this, I'm not trying to claim to be anything other than a participant in this activity. That's why I needed to write the book, I guess. But there's so many things that can put us to sleep, and
Right.
I almost think that's the worst thing that can happen to anyone is to allow ourselves to kind of drift off into a state of sort of semi-consciousness, or sort of being here, but not really being
No, I
here.
think a lot of people are. It's almost like when you go to sleep at night, how there's that distinction between, you're not totally awake, but you're not totally asleep.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
right.
like, I think there's also that distinction of you're alive, but you're not really alive.
Yes.
You're just kind of doing your thing. And it was interesting when you were talking about choices. And I'm including myself in this bucket at times as well. A lot of times people say one of the things, I have no choices,
Right.
or, I don't know, I can't choose. This is really difficult. You don't understand, it's really difficult. But what I found is sometimes it's difficult to make choices, because then there's a responsibility when you make the choice. So it's sometimes that's why I think people procrastinate making choices on things, because there is a responsibility when you take choices. And, sometimes you're like, oh, I made the wrong choice. But there's also something to be said if you never make any choices.
Well, sure, and there can be a kind of paralysis that kicks in if you are afraid of making the wrong choice. Making choices, I feel in a way, it may sound tangential to what we're talking about, but I don't really think so, because part of being alive is in this way we're talking about, the sort of non-sedated life. I guess if we come up with a term to describe this phenomenon, the non-sedated life, it's having a kind of faith that you almost the way a little kid is when you see a kid learning to walk, and the kid says he or she sees other people walking. He says, I want to do that too, but the kid falls down and goofs up and can't do it. But there's this sort of faith that they'll get there, and a gumption, you might say. And I think that's one of the tragic offshoots or results of the sedated life, is you sort of lose your gumption. You you lose that sort of joie de vivre of, I'm just going to dive in and take a big bite of this thing, And
Right.
I don't know for sure it's going to work out, but at least in the end, I want to be able to say that I gave it a good try, a good, And I think that's a quality that a sort of fear creeps in, which is related to the sedation.
Right. Right. Well, I got to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your book and get your viewpoint on how you mixed your visual art with writing. Because a lot of times people, people say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but you actually put those words with it.
Well, I'd be happy to give that a shot, sure.
Okay, great. We're talking to Brian Peterson today. We're talking about his book, The Blossoming of the World, Essays and Images, right here on Personal Best. Stick around. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Kristen Toos from Personal Best. Why not be part of our show by being a sponsor? There's several different sponsorship levels, and this is an innovative and effective way to market to your customer base. Be noticed. Be part of our team of sponsors at Personal Best. Customers are looking for companies that make a difference. Why don't you make a difference today? Give us a call at 847-997-6618 or visit us on the website at www.personalbestshow.com.
Are you thinking about getting divorced? Not sure how to even start the process? Divorce is a very stressful time, and the process can be stressful. At CEL and Associates, we are divorce mediation experts. Brian James and his team know the legal process and can help guide you through this stressful time. Why choose divorce mediation? Divorce mediation is a cost-effective alternative where both parties work together through a mediation counselor to create a balanced divorce agreement to streamline the divorce process. At CEL and Associates, we are not attorneys. We are mediation counselors to help you plan your divorce so your divorce agreement is as specific and effective as possible. An agreement that is tailored for you. What makes it cost-effective? You save time and money by having an agreement in place to limit the litigation fees when two attorneys are involved. This way, your divorce agreement is ready for your attorney and limits the constant delays in the process. Cost-effective and an amicable divorce can set a solid foundation for the parties, especially when children are involved. A mediation agreement can help create a pattern of communication for the future as well. Our main office of CEL and Associates is located in Libertyville, but we also have several locations throughout Chicagoland. We are available to meet at a time and location that is convenient for you. Give us a call at 312-524-5829 or visit our website at yourdivorce.org.
Are you a quester? If you enjoy our show at Personal Best, be a part of the journey and join our brand new listener club. We think of it as a quest to be our personal best. As a quester, you will be getting all kinds of free goodies from our guests, plus some cool stuff from me too. So join now and be a quester at www.personalbestshow.com. Again, that's www.personalbestshow.com. Sign up now.
Back to Personal Best right here at 1220 WKRS. We are talking to Brian Peterson today. We're talking about contradictions. We're talking about his work, Blossoming. I never say these titles right. So, Brian, you have to accept my apology. The Blossoming of the World, Essays and Images. I got all my notes out here, so it gets a little wild. We were talking before the break, and we're talking about people, and this is a really stereotype, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyways. Okay. It seems to me when I meet with artists, they have a passion for life. And people will call them, they're creative. But they're like alive. I mean, they might be out there as far as on the edge, but they're still alive. They're participating.
Yeah.
And I think, in an odd way, that's what really has always attracted me to art, is that I always feel that, Pierre Matisse is a perfect example. I had an opportunity to meet with him, and we've become friendly. And I remember when I met with him, I had some art of his, and I really felt like I knew him before he didn't have to speak with me. His art spoke to me.
Right.
Do you think I think some people who get the idea of art, definitely photography, when it's presented as art as opposed to, us just taking family pictures. photography and art, sometimes people say, I just don't understand it. And I think true people who love art say, really, you choose what you like and what speaks to you. So there's not really a rule on art. Do you find that's true?
Oh, definitely. It does. It's about relationship in a way, I like to say it's about conversation in a sense that that our art, having a dialogue with a work of art, is not that different in many ways from what you and I are doing right here, is having a conversation. The artist strives to make something, to put something in the work that has substance, that has a kind of content, and you as the viewer or listener or whatever, something inside of you connects with or has a conversation with that content, and it can be a very beautiful thing. And the barometer to me is, I go to a show, for example, a visual art show, and if I walk through that show and I get through it in a few minutes, and nothing has demanded my attention, then I think, well, that's not a very good conversation. But the best art, I walk through a show and I'm exhausted.
Yes.
When it's over, because there's been so much of my attention, so much of myself, in a sense, has been demanded to understand the work, that I need to go have a beer or something. I mean, in the museum world, we talk about that. The sensory overload, they call it. Where people can only stand so much of actually looking at art before they have to go and have a cup of coffee or something.
My husband teases me all the time because if we go to a museum, I usually drive. I don't know why. I enjoy driving, and he's always very happy to not be the driver. But if we go to a museum, we always laugh. We just automatically, I go in the passenger seat, and I got to lean my seat back.
Yeah,
I'm exhausted.
Well, that's a good sign in a way, because it means that something has been some dialogue, some of that conversation has happened. But I think another point I would say about it, in terms of what gets people, you said the artists are more alive, and that I hate to be judgmental of that, or it sounds like you're comparing, but I will say that's a lot of, I think, what drew me to it when I was a kid, because as I said, I had a kind of typical middle class upbringing. It wasn't an upbringing that particularly was oriented toward the arts, although it wasn't hostile to it, certainly at all. But what I found was that it was actually being around artists, real artists that I respected, that kind of got me excited. In other words, art was an act of making objects of various kinds, but it was also a way of life. It was a way of being in the world that was really intense and personal. And the artists that I met that were my teachers back in those formative years, I felt were alive in ways that I wanted to be. And I didn't realize how hard it was. I mean, I thought, I'll just, kind of play with it for a year. No, I mean, it's a long journey to get to that place where you finally get your feet on the ground and really, who you are is present and accounted for and beginning to be reflected in the work that you do. It takes quite a bit of growth and often struggle, and artists, have problems, and they quit and they start up again, and it's not a clear and easy path often, but I think what you say, it strikes me as really true and kind of important, at least for me personally, that it was being around other artists that and seeing the kind of people that they were, that kind of got me excited about the artistic life, So
Ironically, we're talking about being sedated and being alive. It's a lot more work to be alive. Like when you said it's hard work, it's a lot more work. I mean, if you compare taking a tranquilizer as far as that and having to deal with something that's difficult, it's definitely, that's why it's harder to be alive.
It's worth it,
It is worth it. Even, and if my mom's listening today, she always laughs because I have been always the I've got a lot of names in my family, but one would be one would be Spark, different things. And
Spark.
I'd rather be out there and alive making my mistakes, and that's kind of a big part of when I put together this show is, we joke and we talk about personal best and different things, but really it's about finding what your best is, but you got to make a commitment to that. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah, and when you say commitment, it is a commitment to a search. Really, it's not like you kind of say, well, you wake up in the morning one day and say, well, I'm going to make happy art, or I'm going to make art that it's not that concrete. It's a process by which you journey towards something, and you're always journeying toward that thing. You never really get there, in a sense, but there is a process of growing into oneself that is really a beautiful thing and joyous. It's we talked about the contradictions early on. It's one of the things that about life that to me personally is just so incredibly wonderful. I mean, I'm in my late 50s now, and it's been a long journey myself. I mean, in my 20s, I had a lot of problems. I really had no idea how to. I knew I wanted to be creative, but I had no idea how to do it or what kind of creativity, what my ideas were. I went on. It was had some difficult years there. And as the years have gone by, the contradiction is that my body is less happy, in a sense, as you get older. But my soul is blossoming in a sense. I mean, the more I'm rooted in my own nature, and there is that sense of growing into one's own skin that happens as you get older and live this kind of creative life and it's just a beautifully joyous process, and I try every day to kind of honor it and make the decisions that I can that will lead me to get more of it.
But that is a contradiction. That's a wonderful point. That is a contradiction. It's almost as if you have an older soul but a younger soul at the same time.
Well, yeah, it is like that. You kind of get younger and younger in a certain sense the older you get. I mean, in some respects, but also I think this business of making choices becomes important too, because I don't know about what it's like for you. I know for me, I feel every day I can make choices that will lead me to getting more of that quality that I want, or can kind of lead me away. And those choices have to do with do I give myself time and space. I get so busy on my job sometimes, and the other couple of days, we just, for example, put up a great big show at the museum, and it just occupied a huge amount of my energy. So I'm walking out of the museum the other day, and there's this beautiful sun coming through the clouds, and I realized, gosh, it's been weeks since I stopped and looked at something like that. I've been just so preoccupied, but that's the kind of thing where I find that you do make choices. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to take 5 minutes and just look at that thing,
Right.
So I did, and I thought, wow, I'm glad that kind of choice. You choose each day whether you kind of listen to what your innards, are telling you, and you don't always. It's not like there's some grand, the heavens open and the choirs and big beams of light, and today I'm going to do this in order to become a better artist or whatever. It's not like that. It's more just a kind of simple turning over the soil of life, and well, today maybe I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit and stare out the window and read the paper and drink a cup of coffee and give myself a little space. I mean, that can be the most creative thing you can do. So sometimes, so.
Oh, really wonderful points. Well, we've got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back. We're going to be talking more with Brian Peterson about the contradictions in life, the blossoming of the world, essays and images we're talking about right here at Personal Best on 1220 WKRS.
Hi, this is Kristen at Company Me. Please join us at our new website at www.companyme.net. On our new website are our personality assessments. I know you think of them as personality tests, but they really are personality assessments to help you be your personal best. At Company Me, we use cutting-edge technology in order to deliver your assessments, whether it be in the privacy of your own home or the privacy of your own office. The great part is that you take the personality assessment online and you get results within 15 seconds. The results come back in your own professional portfolio that you can use for yourself or to help develop your team in the future. Choose from hundreds of assessments, whether it be time mastery, procrastination, team development, or career development. Please join us at www.companyme.net. Company Me, because it's all about you.
Life is busy, hectic, stressful. It's time to relax. It's time to take a break and rejuvenate. It's time for a therapeutic massage from JR Massage. When you're healthy, you work better, you get sick less often, and most importantly, feel better. Massage can be a helpful, healthy alternative to making sure you are at your best. What makes JR Massage Company special? We travel to your location, at home or at work. Worried about costs? How about this? Your first massage is only $30. We are that confident that you will love our services. We want you to have no hesitation for giving us an opportunity to work with you. So give us a call, 630-310-4187, or visit us online at jr-massage.com. We also welcome business clients. This is a great way to show your staff that you care. We have very economical business packages that will fit every budget. At a time when keeping employees healthy and positive, there is no better way than to reward them with a massage from JR Massage.
Hi, I'm Jan Rasmussen, owner of JR Massage. Please call us at 630-310-4187 or visit us at jr-massage.com.
I'm about to tell you why your marketing message is nauseating. I'm also going to tell you how to fix it for free. I'm Mark Lewis, and I'm an expert at fixing bad marketing. Most marketing suffers from a poor choice of words that don't compel anyone to do anything but ignore you. Your message doesn't have to be that way. Employ a few simple strategies, and bad marketing can become profitable marketing. Start by getting my free report, 7 Things, from my website at therightwordsell.com. That's therightwordsell.com. Read it, do it.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Adams with a look at WKRS weather. Today we can expect it cloudy with a chance of some drizzle, temperatures steady around 50. For this evening, cloudy with a chance of light rain, low around 43. And for Thursday, cloudy again with a chance of some morning rain, high in the lower 50s. For Friday, mostly sunny with high in the lower 50s. Currently it's 48 in Waukegan, 47 in Antioch, and 50 in Wakanda. Don't forget, high school sports is back on the air. It's football season in 1220 WKRS. It's proud to have high school sports back on the air. This Friday, the playoffs begin. The Fenton Bisons come to Lake Forest to take on the Scouts. Game coverage begins at pregame at 7:20, kickoff at 7:30. Catch our very own Brian Chimino and Darryl Bellows as they call all the action. High school football on WKRS is brought to you by Certified Auto Body in Lake Bluff, Mike Neerheim, candidate for state's attorney in 2012. High school football on the Voice of Lake County, 1220 WKRS, and online at WKRS.com. Stay tuned for more Personal Best with Kristen Tews.
Welcome back to Personal Best right here at 1220 WKRS. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I hear that song, I feel like I should be driving down the highway. And I'm here in the studio. Welcome back to the show. We've got Brian Peterson. We're talking about contradictions today, what he wrote about in his book, The Blossoming of the World, Essays and Images. Brian, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Kristen.
You know, contradictions, and I think it's really neat that you dealt with this issue through your art, because life is a contradiction, like joy and pain. You know, you always hear people, especially like especially when people talk about sports, it's we went through so much pain, and then there's joy. Like, why is there that contradiction? Why does it have to be painful to be joyous?
Yeah, that's a biggie, isn't it? I wish I had an easy answer for that. It just seems to be the way life is, and people sometimes say, well, or ask me when I talk about this book, like, well, Bry, how do you deal with the contradictions? Right? I mean, like kind of a formula, like just a plug in factor A and factor B and rule C and rule D, and everything will be fine. Then there won't be any contradictions anymore, you know. And I just don't think that's true. It's just certainly not true for me personally. You don't deal with them in a sense of neutralizing them. If anything, you sort of follow them and let them lead you where they take you. I mean, because if nothing else, they're going to keep you awake. As we talked about, they're going to that whole sedated thing. Being. And I'll use another word which I see, in some people that I admire, courage.
Mm.
I think there's a courage that some people can have. People can have in terms of confronting these things. I mean, I've known people with terrible physical problems who do not let themselves be defeated by those problems, and yet at the same time they don't deny them. There's a sense of a kind of cultivating of courage that one needs to have, I think, and that because if you approach life courageously, well, you tend to not get into that sedated state. I guess I don't want to repeat myself here.
No,
but,
I think you're definitely true. It does take courage.
Because the danger is that you can be so terrified by the difficult things that you lose touch with the good things too. And as you were kind of saying initially, a minute or two ago, you really can't have one without the other. That's what I find anyway. I mean,
do you think it's, it's interesting because in photography, obviously, especially in black and white, things contrast. Do you think some of it is you need that contrast?
Help me out with contrast.
Like, for instance, like joy and pain. When you go through something so difficult and then you're so joyous, there's a huge contrast there. I don't know that you could feel that joy to that level.
Well, right. I don't know if you can look at photography that kind of concretely in terms of this metaphor, but photography for me personally has been a source of tremendous joy. It's creativity. It often gets me out into the natural world. I love nature and have since I was a kid, and it allows me to connect in ways that are kind of mysterious sometimes. I spent a lot of time in the Southwest photographing rocks and being out there in the middle of nowhere just by myself and with a backpack and a tripod and a bunch of film and they're very very mystical. I will use that word. Things that can happen through that process and just being in these incredible places in the world. I mean, what a world we live in. I mean, it's just when you really look at it, not just but the cities. I mean, the nature. I mean, the world is this amazingly beautiful, alive, creative place, and what a gift it is to be part of it.
Right.
And I think that's to live a life where you're not aware of that and somehow experiencing that's a tragedy. And so what I find is to cultivate that kind of courage in facing the difficulties, not letting yourself be defeated by them, but on the other hand, not denying them either. There's a way there. There's a path toward a kind of intensity of living that I strive for, and a lot of people do. And I think it is, as you suggest, related to being an artist. I think maybe, but I don't think it's limited to that. I want to be very careful with that.
Sure.
I think that pathway is open to anyone. if you're willing to sort of open yourself to it. So.
When we talk about contradictions, and I think we've all known somebody who this has happened to. Somebody's gotten diagnosed with something that's terminal, and then there becomes that contradiction that's when they live. They haven't really lived the life.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I've certainly known people that where that's been the case, and look, I'll if you get into confessional mode here, in a sense, I mean that's true of me. I don't want to use only the third person with that. I mean, part of one of the sub themes running through this book is that a few years ago was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I don't make a big deal out of it. I don't. It's not the first thing I like to talk about, but I will tell you that it had that effect on me, and not that I was somehow not being myself before that, but getting a diagnosis like that is scary, especially in the beginning when you don't know what's going to happen. It sort of ratchets up the problem,
Right?
And because the level of uncertainty that one ends up having to live with, and just the shock to your system that for me, I mean, personally, I never had any health problems before that, and my father lived to be 92 and basically sailed through without any particular problems before he died in his sleep.
Right.
So I just sort of naturally assumed that I would have the same pathway. Why wouldn't I? And so what I connect personally with the point you're making there. It's not an abstraction for me, but I've seen it in other people too. That yes, it's sometimes an injection of something really tough into your life that wakes you up and really makes you appreciative in a most visceral way of the beauty. And explain that one.
Right.
Why does it have to be that way? I wrestle. Gosh, I mean, why can't we? Why do we have to suffer in order to experience the beauty? I don't know. It just seems to happen that way for many of us, and so that's the boiling that contradiction down to its nub, I guess you could say.
Wow, this is I'm like, I keep getting sad when I see that I have to take a break. It's like I'm so engrossed in our conversation, and I'm like, gosh, I guess we have to have commercials too.
Sure.
Imagine that. But when we come back, we're going to be talking more about Brian's book, The Blossoming of the World, Essays and Images, right here at Personal Best on 1220 WKRS.
Are you a quester? If you enjoy our show at Personal Best, be a part of the journey and join our brand new listener club. We think of it as a quest to be our personal best. As a quester, you will be getting all kinds of free goodies from our guests, plus some cool stuff from me too. So join now and be a quester at www.personalbestshow.com. Again, that's www.personalbestshow.com. Sign up now.
If you or a loved one needs private duty nursing at home, the call will be among the most important you can make. There are many companies to choose from, which makes the decision even more difficult. You want to make sure that your family is safe and cared for, just like you always have. You'll discover that Assured Healthcare is different from any home provider you know. We're not merely providing home medical care. We believe our patients and their families deserve to be treated like treasured members of our family. Give us a call at 847-775-7445 or visit us online at assuredhealthcare.com. At Assured Healthcare, we believe in a philosophy that doing what's right is the only way to conduct life and business. This is why we have a very disciplined approach to our staff hiring process to make sure you receive the very best in care. It just makes sense. A happy employee will be the best employee. We know our employees are what makes our company, so we make sure that we choose employees who share our desire to be the best in service. Whether you need a full-time nurse to be there or just a helpful hand to get some relief, here at Assured Healthcare, you choose the care you need. Maybe you're not sure of your options. No problem. That's what we are here for. Give us a call for a free consultation so you know all of your choices, so you can make the best choice for you. Peace of mind, compassion, and devotion. Doing what's right is the only way to conduct life and business. That's one reason we're called Assured. We are a promise. Give us a call at 847-775-7445 or visit us online at assuredhealthcare.com.
I can't stand to fly. I'm not that naive. I'm just out
Welcome back to Personal
find.
Best right here at 1220 WKRS. We're talking about contradictions today with Brian Peterson through his book, The Blossoming of the World, Essays and Images. Brian, this has just been very interesting. I've decided that I want to have dinner with you because I'm like sitting here and I'm like, this is like, I keep forgetting I'm on the radio right now. I'm like, this is very interesting.
It's fun. Yeah, I kind of live for these kind of conversations. Actually, they're a great
So do I.
pleasure for me. So,
the other part that's interesting, and I'm not. Believe me, this is not a show where we pick on a particular religion or anything like that. But one thing I think that's interesting, you talk a little bit about, is the contradiction of, religion, and then you see wars happen over religion. So it seems contradictory.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess where it comes into play for me is I am a religious person, and I make no secret of it. On the other hand, I don't wear it on my sleeve either. It's just something that I do. I care about, and I experience. It's not an abstraction for me. It's something that it's part of my life. It's who I am. But at the same time, as I said it initially, my father was a geologist and a scientist, and I grew up with the power of science. Embedded in our lives, and my dad's office in the basement where he worked constantly. There was a big poster called the Tower of Time, and it started with the current age and went back billions of years through all the geological eras, and that's the milieu that I grew up in, and I love it. I'm fascinated with science and the what science gives us in terms of knowledge about the majesty of the universe is just beyond belief. I mean, the on the macro level and the micro level, this place we live is amazing, and science tells us about that. At the same time, science has a dark side, and there tends to be this constant tension or battle almost between religion and science, and I think that's unfortunate. It's not something that I guess is a little sub-theme running through my book. It's embedded in there here and there. Is the two sides are really, they should be friends,
Right.
I mean, because sometimes science gets cold and lifeless, and even my father. I remember being out in the wilderness with him one time, and I found a rock that had some ripples on it. It was evidence of an old beach, where it had been fossilized. And I said, "Dad, look at that! That's so exciting! That's so interesting." And he said, "Yeah, that's an interesting specimen."
Right.
And, in other words, for him, it was so routine that it lost some of its excitement. And I guess what I'm getting at is just that. Science can get cold that way. It can sometimes get in a position where it's denying the wonder and attributing everything in the universe to kind of random processes, and that's just not how I experience the universe. But on the other hand, religion can get so narrow and so frightened of the wonders that science has to offer. I mean, the Hubble telescope, they pointed it at a section of the sky that was kind of empty, and just let it photograph that spot for a while. And I forget the number, they have like 3,000 galaxies.
Wow.
That were in that spot. What are we to do with that information? A galaxy is billions and billions of miles away from us, and I mean, the vastness of it is just it's scary, really. And so it's something I I feel strongly in my life that I kind of live out that. It's another contradiction, I guess you could say, between the beauty of religion and what it offers me, but at the same time the power of science, and it is something I work at, I struggle with, because they can tend to cancel each other out or be at odds with each other, and I think that's a mistake.
I think that's I'm like so sad because we're out of time. We're going to have you come back. But the one
That'd
thing
be a lot of fun.
I love that you say is we all tend to deal with contradictions by choosing sides. I think that's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. Okay, you have to tell our listeners how we get your book.
Yeah, I want to put a shout out, as they say, to my wonderful publisher, Tell Me Press. You can get it on the Tell Me Press website, also at Amazon or Barnes and Noble or any of the major outlets. It should be available there, so I hope people, if they buy it, that they're nourished by it, and track me down, send me an email. I always love to hear responses to the books that I do. It's a wonderful thing. So.
Well, I can't tell you. I love to have wonderful conversations, and it's a good reminder to all of us that we are walking contradictions. So we got to get used to it, right?
You betcha.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I really enjoyed it as well.
All right.
Make sure you guys check out Brian's book, The Blossoming of the World, Essays and Images, and that's Brian Peterson. Beautiful, beautiful book. His photography is amazing, and of course his writing is just as amazing. Again, The Blossoming of the World, Essays and Images. Also, make sure that you guys sign up for our Quester program. What's a Quester program? Go to personalbestshow.com, and if you sign up as a Quester, we're going to be giving away more prizes from our authors, and a lot of times there's tips and things that we'll be sending out as well. So make sure you check that out at personalbestshow.com on the cover page and sign up to be a Quester today. Stick around for Dave Ramsey coming right up at the Voice of Lake County, 1220 WKRS. Thanks again for being at Personal Best today.
If women aren't attracted by your looks, and you don't have much money either, perhaps we can help.
1220 WKRS Waukegan, the voice.